been murdered at home, they wrote off that account, despite several other witnesses saying they heard the same scream.
If it's Lloyd, then the body has to be disposed of between a time of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. So anyone who heard screaming in Kings Park at 11 p.m. that night can't be associated with the disposal of the body. That's the logic that they applied.
What do you think of that logic?
It's obviously wrong.
It's flawed,
Obviously,
it's not wrong.
It's not logic at all. It's assumption that's used then to exclude facts that they should have been open to and they should have investigated.
Perth lawyer Martin Bennett has always believed in Lloyd's innocence. The police certain of his guilt. And the trial revealed just how investigators refused to test evidence that might prove them wrong. Most shockingly was the chance to determine scientifically where Corin died. Their own expert, Dr. Dallas Mildenhall, told them nasal swabs collected at Corin's autopsy could conclusively prove where she was last alive.
He told the police quite clearly the pollen on the back of the nose will reflect the last 40 minutes of life, and his main recommendation was get hold of those nasal swabs and analyse them. What did the police do? Nothing.
For 5 years, police had the nasal swabs and did nothing. At trial, Lloyd got special permission from the judge to finally have them tested. Were you taking a gamble?
I wasn't taking a gamble, but many people thought I was. In fact, some lawyers said, "Why would you do that, Lloyd? What if the swabs come back and show that Corin took her last breaths here at home?" I said, "Well, she didn't. She didn't come home. It's not a gamble."
How vital were those nasal swabs?
I think they were crucial.
So crucial, Dr. Lynn Milne's analysis of those swabs destroyed the police case.
No shit.
Australia's foremost forensic palynologist, Dr. Milne is a pollen expert whose tests proved Corin could not have been killed at home.
I found that the swab sample had pollen from Kings Park and none from the Rainey home.
What did that finding tell you?
That meant to me that she was actually breathing when the pollen got there.
She was breathing, she was alive
Yes.
at Kings Park. The fact that you didn't find any pollen samples from Como, her home, what does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that she wasn't killed at her home.
Well, that's critical, isn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, that was the police case, that she was killed at
She
home.
was killed at her home. I couldn't find any pollen from the home.
To Dr. Milne, there's no doubt Lloyd Rainey is an innocent man.
I can't see that there's any way I could have done it.
Scientifically, if you look at the science behind it.
There's no way.
Corin's cause of death has never been established, but there is some evidence that it may have been a sexual assault gone wrong. Her torn shirt and ripped jean zipper. The police dismissed that evidence, but their zealotry in trying to gather other material to implicate Lloyd brought a damning rebuke from trial judge Justice Brian Martin.
Concerning various aspects of the conduct of the police investigators, there are instances of conduct ranging from inappropriate to reprehensible.
Do you feel vindicated in any way that the judge said that?
It was clear that they had behaved reprehensibly, but saying it doesn't cure the harm that they've caused to me and to our children.
Coming up.
The only person that didn't appear to be nervous was Lloyd Rainey.
The verdict is in.
There was never a case that I murdered Corin.
Criticism from the judge,
The absence of evidence tells strongly against the state.
but still no apologies from police.
The injustice is not just to me, it's to my children, it's to everybody who ever knew Corin.
That's next on 60 Minutes.
Okay, we get it. Thank you, Low Power. This not the time. Not the time. No, sir. No, sorry. No, sorry,
November
Bob.
1st, 2012 is Judgment Day for Lloyd Rainey.
There was a media throng like you wouldn't believe. There were more reporters and journalists and camera crews than even at the start of the trial, and there were reporters from all over Australia.
The police investigation and the state prosecution case cost Western Australian taxpayers $20 million. So for them too, this was a day of reckoning. As Lloyd's Queen's Counsel, David Edwardson, remembers, anxiety levels were high on both sides of the courtroom.
Judgment Day, to say the least, is probably one of the most nervous days I've ever had in my life. It was extraordinary. In fact, the only person that didn't appear to be nervous was Lloyd Rainey. And he, despite being that lonely figure that sat in the dock throughout that trial, right to the end, was supremely confident. He said, "Don't worry, David, I'll be acquitted." And he was right.
Five long years after Corrin was murdered and 4 months after the trial began, Justice Brian Martin agreed with Lloyd, declaring him innocent and finding the prosecution had failed.
The case for the state is beset by improbabilities and uncertainties. Crucial evidence is lacking, and the absence of evidence tells strongly against the state. I find the accused not guilty of willful murder.
Despite the best funded investigation, despite unlimited, apparently, resources at the disposal of those people investigating, this is still unsolved. And that's an extremely hard thing for my family to accept.
Were you confident that you would be found not guilty?
Absolutely. All I needed was a fair trial. I never for a moment doubted that I'd be acquitted, because there was no evidence. There was never a case that I'd murdered Corrin, and that's the result.
Three times Lloyd has been judged and found innocent, at his murder trial, at the prosecution's appeal, and in a defamation case against the WA Police last year, where he won a record payout of $2.6 million when represented by lawyer Martin Bennett. But still, financially and by reputation, Lloyd is a ruined man.
Lloyd was running this by himself with no assets, totally wiped out. And this damage will continue for the rest of his career.
You describe the effect on Lloyd's reputation as a dreadful stain, a poison incapable of being expunged.
Hasn't been expunged. All that occurs is people now say, well, he obviously didn't kill her, he arranged for someone to kill her. They just adjust their view to still attribute guilt, but he must be very clever to have got away with it type of thing.
And those who've helped defend Lloyd have also found themselves under attack.
Let's go.
I've received for 7 years anonymous hate mail for acting for Lloyd.
Oh, 1.2.
Somebody once said to me, "Why did you get him off?" And I said, "I didn't. He didn't do it." But, face was right in my nose. It was horrible, really nasty.
Any of us that believed in Lloyd's innocence, any of us that have worked with him, we've all been subject to the same abuse. Utterly insulting.
I did it.